Hey everybody, welcome back. In this video, we're going to be talking about tooling 3-4 ounce leather or even thinner leathers. This will also work on 4 to 5 ounce, somewhere around there when you're tooling. In particular, I'm trying to tool up some extra wallets, little money clip wallets that we sell quite a few of on the website and in the store. They're very popular. We've got a video on making the money clip wallet. You can go back and watch that. But we've addressed it in other videos, but a lot of times when you're tooling, like our newest project video, which is our tortilla warmer, you're tooling 3 to 4 ounce leather. That can be kind of challenging, especially if you've never tooled a lot of stuff as far as floral carving and you're gonna do some really in-depth type artwork on there. It can be really challenging because the leather is very thin, so it's hard to get that depth and that color out of your material just because there's not enough material there. So I'm gonna show you a little trick that I've learned over the years by some friends. I first heard about it from Aaron at Maker's Leather Supply. He had kind of mentioned it to me and I thought, man, it's a really good idea. The first thing is, you can actually put on your tooling rock whenever you're getting ready to tool and things like that. You know, I've seen this in many videos, but I have this green self-healing cutting mat. This mat here, you can buy one of these at Hobby Lobby. I would imagine Michael's has it, anything like that. I bet Walmart even might have something like this. But just your art supply store, it's just a self-healing cutting mat. As you can see, the backside of this has a grid on it. It's for cutting materials and things like that. That's kind of distracting to me, so I've always had this taped down on my bench. If you notice in a lot of photos and videos that we've done on social media as well as YouTube, there's always this green mat down. That's what that's for, is just to offer a little bit of cushion underneath that leather so it's not leather to the stone, because the stone is very dense and you can also damage your tools, so you've got to be really careful when you're tooling that thin of leather. So you can get one of those mats and they tend to work really well. If you don't want to get one of those and you just do it every once in a while, this was one of the tips that Aaron had given me, was just using a mat board. So any kind of mat board material, you can find this again at an art supply store, usually in their frame shop. This is the same material that they mat a picture into a frame with, where they'll cut it out. It comes in tons of different colors and finishes and patterns and things like that. I just buy the gray. The gray is the cheapest one that they offer. It's just, you know, it's not very pretty, but all we're gonna do is tool on it, so we're not really worried about it. It's just like a cardboard. It's very light. You can cut it whatever size you need depending on how big your stone is. And then you just set it on your stone. If you wanna tape it down with some blue painter's tape, something like that, you certainly could, to keep it from moving around on you while you're tooling. The drawback to the mat board is the mat board, over time, the more and more you tool on it, it's taking that force from those tools, and over time it'll start to distort on you and kind of bowl up. And at that point, I just chunk them and then cut me a new one for the next project if I need to, but they'll last through a few projects. But I'm gonna show you some of that. We're gonna get this, I'm gonna try this mat board on here on this new tooling bench that we've been working on. I really like the stone in it. I like the setup, but the only thing is the stone is smaller than my other bench. My other bench stone was huge, so this mat just sat on top of it. I may cut that mat down and tape it into here, but for now and for this video, we're gonna try some mat board and I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. I'm also gonna show you how we prep 3 to 4 ounce leather. So let's do that right quick. So here's another close-up shot of that mat board. Like I said, any color that you wanna get would be absolutely fine. So we'll just have this sitting on the bench. I'm gonna take just a little bit of blue painter's tape. This is just to keep this from moving around on me. It's not that critical. You just take a little strip of it, tape it down, and that's just gonna keep the frustration of having to chase that little mat board around your bench to a minimum. So we'll get that done. And then I've got, so in particular, I'm gonna tool these wallets here, these money clip wallets. We're gonna go ahead and get those tooled up. I'm not sure really what I'm gonna tool on them just yet, but I wanna prep them. So one of the first things that I do on anything that's thin, 5 ounce and under, even y'all have seen me do it on even heavier leathers than that, but I'll use a blue painter's tape. It's quick, it's easy, it doesn't leave a residue, and it's a lot faster than trying to glue in poster board in there or anything like that. And it's just gonna minimize the amount of stretch. Anytime you're tooling a 3-4 ounce leather or somewhere near that, it's going to wanna stretch a lot because we've taken most of the integrity of the material off when it's been thinned down to this weight. But it can still be done. You've just gotta prep it right so that it doesn't stretch too much. Same thing for like for instance the tortilla warmer or anything else project wise that we use a 3 to 4 ounce leather. We've got some other projects where we'll use that. You want to be sure and tape that together or do something to keep it from stretching. You can also use packing tape. I just find it's a little bit more difficult to remove when we're done. So we're just gonna, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take our whatever our pattern is, whatever we're cutting out, just gonna take a little bit of tape, and on these little money clips, 2 strips is more than enough. And you just tape that right there on there, and then we'll just take a knife and trim off the excess. The reason I do that is because I just don't like it sticking while I'm trying to move it around as I'm tooling it. And so now that is ready to tool. And so we've got our mat down. We'll take our little jig that we have for our money clip wallet. These may be available soon, maybe, on the website, but for now you can make you anything out of a piece of cardboard or whatever you want to make, and that way you've got something to make your lineup marks and where you're going to sew. But you just need something to make you a little pattern out of so that you can make your marks of where your tooling window is going to be. And so now I'll just take my calipers here. This isn't necessarily a tooling video, and so we're not going to tool an entire pattern. I just want to show you kind of how nice this mat board works when it comes to tooling on this. Okay, so we're ready to go. Okay, so we'll do just a real easy floral basket combo on here, just so that we can show some of what we're doing here. So I'm just going to do a simple leaf. There's a real simple little leaf there. Little leaf pattern. We'll go ahead and just bevel that. Just want to get to the beveling just so that you can see the kind of depth that we end up with, even with our lifters. So if we're using lifters on this material, I can really get some depth out of that without worrying about going through. And you can see how much that material, the mat board underneath, has allowed that leather to move without being completely solid. So it's going to give you a little bit more forgiveness there, and it's going to allow that material to move like it should, instead of being completely dense from the granite stone that's underneath. And that's what you need sometimes with this thinner leather, is you just need a little cushion underneath your tools or underneath your material so that your tools can do their job. Now you've got to be a little careful because you can really distort your tooling a little bit easier. But as you can see in that piece, you can see the amount of color and depth that we're getting just simply because we have a little bit of cushion underneath that leather. And I'm not worried about coming through. It's going to give you a lot more depth, a lot more shape to your work. like I said, and you can feel it in this mat board. So you've got to, like I said, you can go through your leather steel and go through the mat board if you're really, really whooping on it, because it is 3 to 4 ounce leather. You've got to be a little more tender, but you're going to see a lot more depth than if we beveled right here, say, just straight on the stone. You can hear the difference, and you can hear how that tool's bottoming out through the material. And it's a little hard to tell right there, but these lines aren't near as deep as they are over here. So you can still get some depth with your 3/4 ounce leather as long as you have something down. Like I said, this is going to be a lot softer than your green cutting mat. And if you're worried about it, I would use something more dense like this, but you can change the density of what you're tooling into by making some of these mats. Like this one here, I'll probably cut in half and make it to where I can use this mat board if I'm trying to do something in particular and get a lot of depth out of thinner leather, and then I can use this green mat if I'm just trying to do some standard tooling where it's not that critical. But that's just kind of give you an idea of what's going on here with those two different mats. All right, so that's just a little tip just to kind of help you with those of us that are tooling in thinner leather. If you're doing a lot of wallets, you're doing a lot of, little handbags or little field notebooks, things like that. We're tooling a lot of lighter weight leather. Get you a mat. Like I said, if you want to kind of hit in the middle somewhere, one of these cutting mats is probably your best bet because it's not super, super soft. It's got a little more density to it, but it's at very least going to protect your tools from going through this thinner leather and hitting your rock. That's the biggest thing we're trying to prevent, but we're also trying to get as much depth out of a thinner leather as we possibly can, because there's just not a lot of material here. And if you watch some of the upper level guys, they're really getting a lot of depth, even on a really, really thinly made, really elegant wallet. They still got that depth in there and that lift and that color out of their leather. And so that's just kind of one of the tips that I've learned that kind of helps you with that. Again, if you're going to use mat board, it's pretty soft. You got to be a little bit more tender with it. Play with both of them. Get a couple different types of mat board. I don't know if it comes in different densities, probably not. But as far as the cutting mats, try you a couple, but the main thing is they need to be fairly thin. You don't want a real thick rubber mat that you're tooling on. You want something thin, something that's gonna basically mimic the stone as far as its density, but with a little bit softer feel at the top, just to prevent those tools from going through that leather and to give you that depth. And then too, with the nice thing with this cutting mat, and I've had it on there every video that you've watched, no matter what weight of leather I'm using, I've always had this mat down for the bulk of those videos. If it's there and you're tooling a heavy leather like 10 to 12 ounce, 13, 15, you don't need this mat, but it doesn't hurt anything with it being underneath there. It's not gonna affect your tooling at all. So if you find the one you like, you can tape it down on your bench or mount it down to where it's not gonna move around on you, and you can just leave it there. Then every time you sit down to tool, doesn't matter what weight you're tooling, you can sit down and tool, and it's there if you need it. And if you don't need it, it's not gonna hurt anything. So I appreciate you guys watching. Hope you got some value out of that tip, and we'll see y'all in the next video.